This comment and others like it are on videos where I refute the claim that Democrats and Republicans are essentially the same. And the evidence that they're using to demonstrate the claim that Democrats and Republicans are the same is asking why Obama didn't use his supermajority back in 2009 to codify Roe v. Wade. But before we get into that, this is the list of all of the senators in that Congress. And this is the list of how many of them are left. And the reason I bring this up is because even if you were right, even if your claim was sound, even if you did have evidence to bring to the table, and even if there was nothing that I could say to refute it, you're still not arguing that Democrats and Republicans are the same. You're arguing that Democrats from 16 years ago are the same. Which means even if you were right, you're still arguing a very different point than you're claiming that you are. 16 years is a long time. Babies born during the time period of that Congress can drive now. In fact, there were 11-year-old children during that Congress that are now so old that they got elected into Congress themselves during the time period that Roe v. Wade was overturned. And as a result, even if you were right about this claim, even if there's nothing that we can say to refute it, you're still not arguing that we shouldn't vote for Democrats today. You're arguing that we shouldn't vote for Democrats who were running 16 years ago. And on that point, I think very few of us would disagree with you. But the thing is, you're still not right. Those Democrats were also not the same party as the Republicans. Those Democrats were fighting against Republicans as well, and they accomplished a lot of stuff. Before that Congress, health insurance companies weren't required to provide birth control. So if you're on the pill right now and insurance is paying for that, you can thank those Democrats. And before that Congress, insurance was also not required to provide preventative care, which means mammograms, well-woman visits were all not required to be provided with insurance. A lot of things that we take for granted right now today are only possible because of those Democrats with that supermajority. And they fought vehemently against the Republicans who were opposed to all of that legislation back when that happened. Which means the claim that they are the same as Republicans, even back then, is just demonstrably false. Now, to answer your question, why didn't they codify Roe v. Wade while they had the chance to? Because, simple enough, back then the Supreme Court was not threatening to overturn it. Abortion access at that point in time was considered safe and permanent. Now, you can disagree with the assessment that abortion access was safe and permanent because clearly it was not. But that's not relevant to this discussion. It's also not relevant to this discussion if you disagree that that was a good reason to prioritize the Affordable Care Act. These conversations, while incredibly important, are not related to the initial claim that's being refuted and is the topic of discussion right now, which is the claim that Democrats and Republicans are essentially the same. Because again, even if you disagree with the decision to prioritize everything that the 111th Congress passed, your disagreement does not change the fact that Republicans were on the opposite side of all of that. And keep in mind that even if that did mean that, it still doesn't serve as evidence for the claim that Democrats today are the same as Republicans today. Because Democrats today did try to codify Roe v. Wade, and they did it a year before Roe v. Wade was overturned. Now, you may be able to find some similarities, and a lot of them I addressed in that last video. But just because two things have one thing in common does not mean that they are the same thing. This is not a discussion about whether or not you like the Democrats. This is not a discussion about whether or not you should vote for Democrats. This is not even a discussion about whether or not Democrats are the good guys in any of these scenarios. And most importantly, this is not about party loyalty. I have made many videos showing that party loyalty is bad. This is a discussion about the claim that Democrats and Republicans are virtually the same, and that claim is demonstrably and flagrantly false. If you want to have a data-driven discussion, we can talk about why you refuse to vote for the Democrats. We can talk about Gaza, we can talk about capitalism, we can talk about unkept campaign promises. All of these things I've talked about in many other videos, and chances are we agree more than we disagree. But saying that they're the same, or even saying that they're just as bad as Republicans, is something that's demonstrably untrue. When you lead with this claim, you are unintentionally or intentionally spreading misinformation.